Lecture 1. Today we would like to introduce some basics. The basics we mean really is before someone writes a composition, a person must be able to write a full, correct English sentence. Usually, in courses such as this one, where you are expected to write compositions of a lower scale, lower in detail, and lower in complexity, we advise that you use the simple sentence as much as you can. Now, the simple sentence in English usually has one verb. Now, in that case, there are tenses that usually occur most of the time while writing about a topic. Now, these tenses have been introduced to you many times, I'm sure, while you were in school. And probably before this course, you had a general course, a general English course that you had, and these tenses or these grammatical constructions were introduced to you beforehand. So they're really familiar, if you want the truth. So let me just go over them and remind you of them. They are the simple present, the simple past, the present progressive, the past progressive, the present perfect, and the past perfect. Now, if you can if you have a command over how to write correct sentences in the simple present, past progressive, and past progressive, present perfect, and past perfect, you are most likely going to avoid a lot of grammatical issues in your writing. More so, if grammatical issues are dealt with most of the time, that means that gives you a chance to focus on the content of your composition. In other words, it makes you focus on the ideas more than you are focusing on your spelling or your grammar. So, getting to know these very well, these grammatical constructions very well, really pays off. Let's begin with, like I said before, they're all familiar. Let's take the simple present. Now, there are issues about the simple present that have been repeated to you many, many times. For instance, remember that the issue of the S, you probably had an instructor saying, in the simple present, we use an S sometimes, and we don't use an S sometimes on the verb. But when does that happen? Well, there's another issue of being either singular or plural. And what is singular or plural? That's the subject. So you have basically an S occurring sometimes and sometimes not occurring on the verb, and you have the subject being either singular or plural. So there's kind of a relationship between the singular subject and the S, and the plural subject and no S. So, somehow, the S occurs with the singular, the no S occurs with the plural. Now, when do we use the simple present? You probably already know this, we use it when something happens usually. That means we're used to the fact that this event happens, such as going to school every day, or most of the time in the week, most of the days of the week, or having your lunch or your dinner at a specific time, or most of the time in the week. You know, these things that happen in a usual manner. So, an example would be the woman works at a bank. So when you have a woman that actually works at a bank, she's going to probably work 5-6 days a week. So it's something usual, something repetitive, and the woman is singular. That means there's only one woman. So notice, when there was only one woman, there was an S on the verb. This is our verb, right? And this is our singular subject. So once you have a singular subject, one, there is an S on the verb. Again, the man, also one person, a singular. There should be an S on the verb. The verb is works, and there's our S. At a bank. So it doesn't really have to do with being male or female. It just has to do with being either one subject or a plural subject, more than one. Right. Now let's say we have more than one subject. We use the pronoun they. That is a plural. Right? More than one. They work, notice, no S, at a bank. So if you have a plural subject, meaning more than one, you don't use S. There is no S. If you have a singular subject, you use an S on the verb. So, therefore, you're going to have the woman works at a bank, the man works at a bank, and they, more than one, work at a bank. That's in relation to the simple present. I hope that was clear. Now you try and see if this is easy or not. I'm going to give you 15 seconds to read through these 4 sentences and decide how to answer them. Now, what you should do is choose from the verbs on this side. Okay? I'll give you 15 seconds to look at them. Let's read them together. Tom, space, basketball at school. Sarah watches TV in the evening. Sorry, there's a mistake there. 2 mistakes, actually. So, Barbara to eat vanilla ice cream. Tom and Barbara, space, every year. Okay. In this case, Tom is one, so it's singular. So we should have an S on the verb. So we choose plays. So you say, Tom plays. Okay? Tom plays basketball at school. The second one is actually very bad. I'm sorry, I apologize about that. Sarah watches, I already answered the question for you. Sarah is one, and watches. Just disregard the space. I'm sorry, it's a mistake. So Sarah watches TV in the, sorry. There's a mistake there. Just forget about it. Barbara, number 3, Barbara, space, to eat vanilla ice cream. Barbara is one. Barbara is one person. Singular. Sarah is singular as well. So if Barbara is one person, that means she's singular. That means we use the S. So Barbara likes to eat vanilla ice cream. Fair enough. The last one, you have Tom and Barbara. Tom and Barbara. So you have two. So you have two people in the subject. That means they're plural, right? Sorry. So if they're plural, that means you use the verb with no S, because you have Tom and Barbara. Is that clear? I hope so. The simple past. The simple past is much less complicated than the simple present, because the issue of singular and plural doesn't really matter. So let's remember this together. You use the ed most of the time to indicate that the verb is in the past tense, or you use the different form of a verb, such as take. The past tense or the past tense form is took. So it's either ed or changing the form of the verb, like take, changing it into took. Now, example, the woman, which is one, works at a bank. This is the simple present, if you remember this sentence. Now, if I wanted to change it back, or to change it into a simple past, I would say the woman worked at a bank. Worked at a bank. So it's as easy as that, as simple as that. You just add ed on the verb. Now, there are issues about the past form, and that is the irregular verbs, the ones we change the forms to get the past form of them. That means without adding ed. Now, what you do with those is you don't have a choice, really. You just have to memorize them. You have to know them. Most of the time, regular verbs use ed. These are the majority of verbs in the English language. They're regular, you use ed. Some verbs are just irregular that you just have to know. Among these verbs is ring. The past form is rang. Sing, the past form is sang. Buy, the past form is bought. Think, the past form is thought. And the list is endless. You can find these lists online, and there are a lot really, but eventually you get used to them and you actually get to know them. So I'm sorry, there's no magic potion that we can use that would tell us to differentiate if a verb is regular or irregular. Now, the present and past progressive. Some people call it the continuous. It's the same thing. It's just some people decided to call it the progressive, and others preferred to call it the continuous. So let's just remind ourselves with this. We have to use is, am, are, was, and were with the ing form. You can't use ing on the verb unless you have one of these before the verb. Okay? Now let's see how this works. For the first sentence here, you have, he is walking in the street. Notice that if I say, he walking in the street, that's wrong. He walking in the street is wrong. Very wrong. They are walking in the street, this is correct. But if you say, sorry, this is they walking in the street, this is wrong. I walking in the street is wrong. She walking in the street is wrong. We walking in the street is wrong. They walking in the street is wrong. In order to make it correct, we have to use verb to be and ing together. So it's verb to be, is, am, are, was, and were, plus ing. You have to have them together. So are walking, am walking, was walking, were walking. Here, they walking, this is not right. This is incorrect. Is that clear? I hope so. The present and past perfect. Just to go back 1 minute. Now notice that we talked about the present and past. This is the present. Is, am, and are the present. Was and were are the past. Are the past continuous. So these three, is, am, and are in the present continuous. or present progressive. Was and were are in the past progressive. Okay, just don't forget that. The present and past perfect. When we say perfect, that means there is a form of have. Either have, or has, or had, plus the past participle form of the verb. I'm sure you know this before. So you say, she has, because has is used with the singular forms. Right? She has, and then eaten is your past participle form. Right? They have eaten their lunch. They and have. They, plural, and have. She, singular, and has. They and had. So, what we're trying to say is, here you have the past participle eaten all the time. Eaten, eaten, and eaten. But you cannot use the past participle unless you have a form of have, the appropriate form of have, before it. So we use has with the singular, have with the plural, had with the singular or plural in the past. So this is has is in the singular present, have is in the plural present, had is in the singular and plural past. So, she has eaten. She is singular. We have to use have. Let me just try to explain this again. Now, one more time. She has eaten her lunch. Notice that has is used with a singular present form. He has eaten. Have is used with the plural form. Had is used with the plural, and it is used also with the singular form, but because it's in the past. So two of these are in the present, and this one is in the past. Now notice when you use he eaten his lunch is wrong. Why? Because there is no have. Okay? I hope that was clear. Those were some basics that we refreshed our memory of, and I will see you next lecture. Thank you very much for listening.